Hello, everyone. My name is Misty Petrella, and I am here with Randi Levin. We are actually, she's also a coach, and we're going to be talking about that in just a second. But we are here today to be having a really sort of interesting discussion about fear. I certainly am always talking about fear, and Randi is always talking about fear in her own way. So for her guest expert day, we absolutely wanted to bring these two minds together and see what came up. So Randi, I'm going to repost this later, of course, for people, but tell us a little bit more about you, why you do the work you do, so people can get.
Absolutely. So I am a transitional life strategist and reinvention expert, which is a really fancy way of saying that I coach and support mostly women around what's next in their lives. So we make these huge choices when we're in our 20s that we're going to do this and be that. And many of us get married or we start families, and we think all of this is like the fairy tale. It's all the forever after. Except it's not. We have one life, many chapters, Misty, many chapters. And that's the exciting part, is that these decisions that we make in our 20s don't have to necessarily and should not necessarily align with us 20 years later. Because we evolve, we change. And if we don't change, other things change. A marriage may work, it may not work. Our children, we have them, they grow up. You know, they don't need us the same way that they needed us before. So life marches on, and we have to really be able to hone in and really focus on, so who are we today? And so I support my clients in figuring out, editing, curating that story of today for them so that they're best aligned with who they are.
That is so cool. And I got to tell you, like, when you were talking about that, I had that experience, right? I literally had that experience where I was like, all right, I got all the stuff. I'm married. I have a big house and 2 cars and all the stuff, and I'm supposed to be happy now. And I had a great career. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. And it may have been for a while a certain way, and we think that we want certain things, and then but not really, because sometimes we don't know until we experience it. And we think that we always want to be this or do that, but life evolves, and we live longer lives than ever before too, and we're so connected to so many things. And so the possibilities of you and I having home-based businesses wasn't such a thing a number of years ago, and now it's a thing, and we're living it. So, and you can be in one state, and I can be in another, and anyone who's watching this can be wherever they are, and that's kind of the beauty of that whole evolution right there. But the fears, those are the things that stop us or don't. And so we talk fearless up level. We talk about fear to fearless. Our fears never really leave us. They stay with us. So we own those. They're based in our childhood. They happen at a very early age, 7, 8 years old. Those fears are kind of kicked in. They're in place. And it's really what we decide to do with them. Are we going to let them take control of us, or are we going to live and share the road with them? And I talk a lot in my coaching practice about an acronym, a GPS, an acronym. It stands for growth, purpose, and success steps. But talking about roads and cars on the road, and in this visual of fear being this big, hairy, crazy monster that's literally standing in the roadway. It's bad breath. It's horrible. It's this horrible, horrible creature. So it's scary, because change is scary. But
what was the fear that you've had to deal with in your life? What was a big one that you've had to?
Well, I think just my own reinvention. I was in corporate America for years. I was a buyer. I was in retail. I was in HR. And I took a step back from that to step onto the mommy track. And I thought it was going to be a short-lived reign. And one kid became 2 kids, and short-lived became a really longer than I want to talk about. A really long time. And that was fine, because that defined who I was then, okay? And I became who I am now based on all of that. But when I'm going through my own, okay, what am I going to be when I grow up, hitting big birthdays and saying, all right, so let's get serious, what's going on here? It's scary. And you don't know. And so you know what you know, and you kind of stay in that, and you stay in that realm of, okay, so I've done this before, and I'm doing this now, and the possibility of whoa, what is that? How do I figure that out? And so I really had to sit back and come up with, I knew I needed some sort of guide, some sort of map, and that's kind of how that whole GPS thing happened, because that's sort of what happened for me. I had to really look at where was I growing? What had I grown into? Who am I now? I had to look at what my purpose is, because we have more than one purpose in life. That evolves with us as well. And I had to look at how am I going to get there, right? How am I going to get there? So, there's this monster in the roadway saying, no, you've been a stay-at-home mom too long, you've been out of the job market, you don't want to go back to retailing, you got to figure this out, blah, 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 get away from me, this big monster. And then until you realize that the monster will share the road with you. You just have to be willing to go past it. Because on the other side of that monster is usually exactly what you want. So
true. I got to tell you, like, when I had amassed all of these things, right? I didn't like each one. I didn't like, I was getting the great job, right? And I wasn't like, is this really what I want? I was like, this is what I'm supposed to go do, right? And so, like, when I amassed these things, right, that I thought I was supposed to, like, that would make me happy, right? I was like, oh my God, I have no idea who I am. I mean, that was for me, the first big scary fear, the first big one, right? Because when you hit that first one and you're like, what did I do?
Right. Well, you're supposed to do it a certain way, right? It's supposed to be that you made a decision already. It's supposed to be that. How can you make another decision?
Yes, because I love that you said that you have more than one life purpose, because I feel like so many people, especially in our self-help industry, right? Like, so many people are like, I need to find the one purpose of my life.
Right. I need to find myself.
In their happiness, again, to like this one purpose, this one thing that will make them successful. And I'm like, no.
Because the second they lock into that, Misty, here's what happens. There's that imbalance, and we're always looking for balance, because then we think we've got it. And so we just stop working as much at it, and it just becomes what we know. And then we get out of alignment again with that. And so we're looking again, we're searching again, but then we think we're not supposed to, because we're supposed to be this. We said we were going to be this. So one of the things I like to tell people when you're picturing, this fear, whatever it is, fear of success, fear of failure, fear of communication, fear of commitment, fear of whatever the fear is that's showing up for you. And sometimes it's a multiple. And you are seeing this monster, this creature that, oh God, it may just eat me. So I'm just going to stay put because it's safer. Change the vision. So we've got this big hairy monster. Create a feather, literally a feather. Replace it in your mind's eye with a feather. And I just read that feathers are like angels. They're like good luck symbols.
Nice.
So this feather, you could shoot a row with the feather, right? Because you could blow it out of the way. It could blow around in the wind. You could push it aside a little bit. It's still going to be there. It's still going to be on the road with you. But you can get past it better. So some coaches will tell you, oh, name that fear. And that's another tool that you can use to try to get past that a little bit into the fearless, as we like to say.
I have a thing too. I say, because my whole thing is about love, right? I'm always talking about love, right? So my thing is like, let's send it some love, right? Let's send that fear. So like if you're afraid, if any of us are afraid, if you see a puppy on the side of a road who is afraid, you yell at the puppy and tell him it's bad? No, you like hold it lovingly.
You nurture.
And nurture it and see it. Yes. Yeah. I love that. I love that you talk about it as a feather. That's cool. I love it.
It's that idea of, and it sounds corny when you say it, but friending the fear. Yeah. It's making it into something more tangible, more likable. Because if it's going to happen anyway, let me just reach out and grab it.
Right. It just spells that, like, that's our thing, right? Guys, you all know that, right? Like, our fear isn't a real, I'm sure you already know that, but let's just say it. It is not actually a tangible thing. It feels very real. I'm not saying it's not feels very real for you, but it isn't actually a thing. Right.
So it can't eat us.
It can't harm you, right? It can't harm you, right? It feels like it can. Believe me, I get it. But in fact, the fear itself cannot hurt you. So might as well unfriend it, right?
You might as well unfriend it. Exactly. Because then you have some action with it, and you can take action with it, and change can happen. Because when we let fear run things, there's no change.
Yeah.
There's no action. You may think you want something, and you may express it and say, I really want to be able to do this, or that would be so great to accomplish this year. And then what happens? Like, think about New Year's resolutions. What happens to those? You know, we start it, and then we get like into that, fear mode and whatever it is. And then we go into the overwhelm and the procrastination, all the other pieces that are part of it. And not so much, we get shut down because we're envisioning this huge thing that we have to climb and get through to get to something, and it just seems overwhelming. So not so much. Right?
So for a lot of your clients, what are some, like, what's a big fear you tend to see over and over again?
One of the biggest fears, honestly, is fear of not being perfect. Fear of not being perfect. Having this ideal that either yourself or your family or your spouse or someone set for you, or it's just kind of been in stone in your mind for a while. And maybe even wearing that mask. So you've got, like you said, that perfect home, right? You look great. You show up for everything. You're on target with, you can check off all those little boxes. Do this, do that. Great,
yeah,
great.
I get it.
But then what's going on? Because you're not envisioning it that way, or you're just wearing that mask. So on the outside it's that way, but on the inside it's something else. And you don't want to step forward into, whatever the next thing may be, because you're caught in that web of, not necessarily knowing it'll be perfect. And when we pass a fear, when we get into that risk mode and give ourselves permission to step into the fear a little bit, it is scary. And that's why we envision it as something awful, a tangible thing that's going to bite us in some way. So, sometimes stepping away from the thing we most want a little bit allows it to come back in, and giving ourselves, I walk around with pink stickies all the time, but, back in the old days in school, we used to get these pink permission slips.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, I remember.
Permission slips, right? Oh, you were rocking. You could walk down the hall. You could go to the office. You could, go wherever you needed to. You were the coolest, but you had a pink permission slip. So my suggestion is often to people to take a pink sticky. You could take any piece of paper, but take a pink sticky note.
That's cool.
It's your permission slip, and literally write on that one thing you'd like to give yourself permission to do.
Nice.
Because what does that permission do? It allows you to dispel that fear, at least for that one thing.
Self-permission. I like that, right? Because so often we seek, approval or whatever from the outside, or happiness from the outside.
Exactly. You're living somebody else's life.
Yes. Yeah. Yourself for permission. I love that. Yes.
Right. Exactly. And then ask yourself, once you put that one thing down, if you could do that thing, what would be different in your life? And so if we can kind of get that feeling of what would be different and envision it, it's just enough to maybe allow us to do that. And you can do this every single day. What am I going to give myself permission to do today?
Oh, wait, hold on, guys. Just a second. What are you going to give yourself to do?
That could be a loaded question today.
I love that. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. I just needed to say that. Like, guys, what are you going to do today? That's awesome.
But it could be something huge. It could be the thing that's sitting, on the to-do list. From day to day. It could be in work. It could be the thing that is your biggest fear, and you want to break off one little piece of that. So maybe you want, new clients, and you need to make those phone calls or whatever, and you just hate making phone calls. So challenge yourself. Today is the day you're going to make 3 of them or 6 of them, or however many you're going to make. And that becomes your permission slip for the day. So you take a little bit of fear out, and you're able to cross something off your list and feel successful about it. Because when we can be successful, it's a little bit of fear less.
There you go. That's awesome. Right? Yeah, one of the big fears that a lot of my clients, entrepreneurs, encounter is, they want to make money as quickly as humanly possible. So they're looking for the right way to do this.
Right.
We could even say the perfect way, right? Mm-hmm. What is the way that I can create my business that will make me money? How do I make the right package? And so it takes this beautiful business that people have, like coming out of their soul, and then they hand it over to somebody else. And I'm like, no. Because I believe there is no perfect way. There is no perfect way to create a business. As a matter of fact, if you're trying to do somebody else's thing, it's already the wrong thing. Like, have fun, guys. Get back into your heart space of why you started your business in the first place. You will always find more success there, and more joy, by the way. If you're always like, am I doing it right? Will I get to the next dollar? Dude, that takes all the fun out. And how are you?
That takes all the energy out, Misty.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So if we approach our businesses, our lives, our personal lives with purpose and drive and fun and the ability to play with what it is, we're approaching it on a higher energy level. If we approach it like, oh, this really stinks, I'm not making any money, I don't really like doing that, so-and-so said this, I can't afford that, whatever it is, you're already drained. Right. So you're showing up late to the party already. You're already operating from a place of not being able to step forward.
Right. I work really hard to get people back, and as I'm sure you do as well, Randi, I work hard to help people reestablish their own authority. We get so used to am I doing this right? Asking somebody else. Am I meditating properly? Is this the right ideal client? And they, are constantly seeking the outside thing when really there's so much wisdom in here.
That's what this is. This is permission. It's not permission for somebody else. It's permission for you.
That's why I love it.
Permission for you. It's not permission for you to ask someone else, is this right? Or can you do it for me? Or, whatever else we lean on everybody for. It's permission to say to yourself, I've got this. And if I don't, that's okay too. But I'm going to step into it.
Yes. That is literally what we're doing at Fearless Income. Because I believe that your ability to create income has absolutely to do with what's going on inside, right? It's like you said a couple of minutes ago, we are the ones who stop ourselves from making the phone calls. We're the ones who, it's not the stuff. It's not the strategies and all the stuff. It's the inside stuff. It's giving yourself exactly like you said.
Absolutely. So I'm going to throw something out there because I'm very visual in my coaching and in my writing and all of that. So think about this. Back in grade school, when we had the permission slip in our hand, we were being taught how to write a story, how to write in English class. So when we learn how to write, we're told that there's 3 parts to a story. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? Great. We have to have all those parts. Except in life, we're constantly telling ourselves stories. We're writing stories in our mind's eye. Okay. And they have a beginning because we know what we want, right? Or we think we know what we want. So we can clearly state that and say, I want to make more money in my business, or I want to be X, or I want to only work 3 days a week, or whatever we're setting out there. Okay. But what happens is instead of writing the body of the story, the second piece, we often divert immediately to the ending. And we start writing and telling ourselves in our minds, this story, right, very dramatic, this story of why something can't happen. This is going to happen. What if that happens? And if I don't have enough money for this, and it's not the right time, and my family needs me, and this one needs me, and, maybe next year, and, last time I tried it, it didn't work. My friend tried it and it didn't work.
Whatever. We could load up endless of it.
Yeah, but we write this and we write, and that's the real that we. So what happens? That middle of the story represents today. And we don't always write today into the story. We've written the beginning and we go directly to the ending. And then what happens to today? It doesn't happen.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to go from fear to fearless, you have to write the whole story.
That's so great.
Right?
Somebody said, and I think this goes along with what you're saying. Somebody said, I forget who it was. Maybe it was Tony Robbins. It was somebody big, some big coach. It was like, walk through your head or walk through your day in your head beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So really, that's kind of like seeing your story in the present.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yes, because it keeps you grounded.
Yeah.
It keeps you grounded. When we stay in today, whatever trick we use to stay in today, it grounds us, because then we can accomplish, when we're looking at the successes of the day or the highlights of a day or whatever trick in journaling we may want to kick into, our daily practice of living. Being grateful, for instance, keeps us in today, because it's really hard to have fear when we're grateful.
Well,
we're abundant. It's hard to be fearful.
In fear, you are not present.
Right. You're not present and you're not abundant. You're feeling sorry for yourself.
Right. So if you are feeling fear, guys, if you're going, oh my gosh, I can't, anytime that story's running in your head about why you can't do it, like she said, do any of there are grounding exercises you can do by running your energy up and down. That can take you moments. You could go out and put your feet in the grass. You can talk to somebody about what's going on. There's a million free and paid ways to deal with not being present, right?
Exactly.
But I highly recommend to everyone to work to grow that time that you can stay present with yourself. Like, that's a little practice. How long can you be present at any given time? That's a real thing, guys.
Exactly. And how can you bring yourself back? Yeah. Okay, so here's 2 tricks, okay, to bring yourself back in. One is to understand the power of the word and, simple word, 3 letters, okay? So let's say, you're starting your day and you're going through, you have the beginning of the story and you're now talking about the ending of the story, okay? So this is what's gonna happen, blah, 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 blah. Oh gosh, you're starting to shut yourself down. So create that sentence in your mind's eye, say it out loud if you want to, of what you think is gonna happen. And right where you're putting that period, put capital letters and complete the rest of the sentence. So I'm going to use a real life example, and one that I get from clients very often, because I do deal with a lot of moms who are thinking about and starting to go back into the workforce and that type of thing as well. And often they will say something like, oh, I really want to start that business. I've been talking about it for years, but my children need me. My family needs, it's not the right, they go into that whole mode.
Right. And so I can't be a good mom and take care of myself.
I got to be a good mom and be home even when they're not. Okay. So here's the sentence. Here's the shift. I really want to start this business. I know exactly what it is. I'm so excited to do it. Instead of but, we add and. My children are in school 35 hours a week. What can I do?
Nice.
How does it shift? How does it shift the energy? Where can you now find possibility? Where do you give yourself that permission slip?
Yeah, right? Opens it up. I love that.
Yeah, right? The word and. Okay. And it will take fear away when you do that. I mean, it's still on the road. It's still with you, but it's a way of saying, okay, big furry crazy monster that's standing there, I now have 35 hours to pass you by. I can do that. Okay.
Well, it allows you to, I love that because it allows you to see all the shades of gray. It gives you like the third, there's some coach out there. She calls it, Jennifer Cass, actually. That's who she is.
Okay.
She calls it the third answer, right? There's always a third answer, which is what you're saying. Like, it's not I'm a good mom or I'm a bad mom.
Right. So what's real? What's real? You're a mom and you've got concerns, but there's things you want to do, so do them. Right? That's really the message. That's right? Yes. So the word and. Okay, the second thing is the second part of what I just said there, actually. It's the asking yourself this question. So anytime you start to rattle off and lose track and get into that overwhelm and start to procrastinate and get caught and look at your watch, oh my God, I got to pick this one up in 10 minutes and I got to be here and I've got a client, whatever it is, and we all do it. We get into this little chatter in our head. Stop and ask yourself, what can I do now? Easy. What can I do now? Sounds really simple, right? Brings you right back. And there's always something you can do. Even if you have 10 minutes, that's that call. That's that email that you wanted to send. That's that time that maybe you want to just close your eyes for a minute, or maybe you want to go take a quick walk around the block. There's always something you can do that brings you back to the present, back to today. And what that does is it dispels a lot of the fears, a lot of the things that you are anticipating in your head that aren't getting done or that can't happen or are going to play out a certain way. Brings you back into the present and you're much more available to yourself.
That's so cool. Now, guys, when you are in the process, we're talking about being present while you are sort of in and out of being present. Like you'll be able to be aware of it as it's happening, right? You'll see it. Now, the big thing here is not to judge when you're not present, right? Because don't add judgment on top of fear, on top of all the other stuff, right? This is a practice of like allowing, right? So like if you find yourself in a mental state of like spinning somewhere, you know, in belief or whatever, just, oh, okay, I see that. I can be present again. Don't add judgment to it, please. It just adds a whole nother layer of things you have to uncover later. It's okay. It's okay if you're not present. Just come back.
Just come back. Yeah, please come back. Don't stay there.
Okay, wow. This has been a really cool discussion, Randi. Thank you so much. Like I said, I can always talk about fear. It is like one of my favorite subjects because, you know, early in my life, it has polarized me. And so once you like start breaking through that, it really is, once you know how to live with your fear in a loving or present way, it isn't so scary.
Because our story is our story. You know, our personal story is our story. And it may seem like, oh, no one would want to hear that, or that's not a good story, or what. That's what makes you you. Yeah. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever it is. So, you know, be present for that. You know, love it, nurture it, acknowledge it, laugh at it, poke holes in it. You know, one of the greatest things with fear is to be able to look at it as the elephant in the room. It's going to be there, but you want to be able to poke some holes in it and really see it for what it is.
That's cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was a great idea, and I'm glad we got to do it.
Yep. Awesome.
All right, guys. Where can we find out more about you, Randi, so that they can go, once if they watch this, they can say, oh, I'm going to check out what she's doing.
I think the best place is probably my website. So that's www.randi, Levin, Levin, coaching.com.
RandiLevinCoaching.com. Beautiful. Guys, obviously, you want to like hang out with other entrepreneurs who are like doing pretty amazing, powerful, and loving things. Like head on over to the Empowered Entrepreneur Facebook group. We would love to have you. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Mwah. We will see you on the other side. Take care. Thanks again, Randi.
Bye.
Bye.